All right, so if you're watching this video, it's probably because you have a Jeep 2-liter turbo that's overheating when you're at idle. This one trick will save you like over $1,000 at least in misdiagnosed parts. I'm going to tell you how to diagnose it, how to fix it, and then how to rebleed your system. Let's get right into it. Good way to diagnose it, like I said, for this issue, you'll be overheating at idle, and then you go to drive it, and then it cools back off. And then you come back to a red light, it starts overheating again. You may see the AC cutting out. You know, your AC is not cold or anything anymore. And so if that happens, what you want to check first is your electric cooling fans. If those are working, you're good to go. Check the top and bottom radiator hoses. If they're both, hot, one of them may be a little bit cooler than the other one, but if they're both pretty hot and you squeeze them and they feel like they're pressurized and everything, you're good to go there. There's no problem with the thermostat, most likely. And so that may lead you to think that it's a water pump. Now, one test you can do is while it's sitting at idle, when it starts to overheat, put it in neutral or park and put the RPMs at 2,500. If the temperature shoots right back down to 220, right where it's supposed to be, then you need to go ahead and finish this video. So it could be a water pump, but in this case that we found last week, it's not the water pump. There's actually a coolant inlet pipe that bolts to the side of the water pump. And if you don't know, the water pump on these engines is right above the AC compressor on the driver's side of the engine, on the left-hand side of the engine. Just get in there and you need to check. Sometimes you'll be leaking coolant right out of that inlet pipe, and sometimes you won't. In this case that we were working on, we weren't losing any coolant. The coolant level was fine. But what happens is those bolts holding that pipe onto the side of the water pump, they come loose. So either they didn't get torqued down at the factory or they didn't get Loctite put on at the factory. And what happens is these bolts will back out a little bit, and it may not be enough to leak coolant, but it'll be just enough for when that impeller's spinning in that water pump, it'll actually suck tiny little amounts of air into that water pump, and it'll create like a vapor lock around your thermostat, and it'll keep the coolant from being able to flow. And the reason that when you put it at 2,500 RPM, the reason it starts to flow is because now that water pump's building up enough pressure and enough vacuum, to actually overcome that vapor lock, so it cools down properly and it works right. So all you got to do to fix it is you just, drain the system, take the bolts out, put a little bit of blue Loctite on there, torque them down, and then you're good to go. All you got to do is just bleed the system. Now, the way that you bleed the system on these things is kind of odd. You basically just put the Jeep on an incline, so the front of the Jeep will be facing up. You can either put it on ramps or jack stands or something like that. One important thing about bleeding the system, make sure you use the right coolant for your vehicle. I believe on the one that we were working on, it was a 2020 Jeep Wrangler, and it took the purple North American coolant. All you got to do is put coolant in the reservoir. Now, there's two reservoirs on this thing. The reservoir that this one affects is over by the firewall by the brake master cylinder. So, put all your coolant in there, crank the truck up, and put the heat on full blast inside the cab. This will get it circulating through the heater core and get all that air pockets and everything out. And then once all that happens and it gets up to operating temperature, so you know that the thermostat is opened up, then you hold the RPMs on the engine between 2,000 and 3,000 RPMs, and you're going to hold it for 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, this is in the service bulletin and everything for this fix. So you hold it there for 3 to 5 minutes. Just watch your reservoir, make sure there's no foam in there, no bubbles and everything. And, as the temperature will kind of fluctuate between when the cooling fans kick on and kick off. So as it starts to heat up, that reservoir will start filling up. And then once it cools down, it'll go back down to a proper level. Don't worry about that. What you're looking for is bubbles and everything in the system. So as long as all the foam and the bubbles and everything are gone, you're good to go. And then you can put the cap back on the cooling system, put it back at idle, and then watch it and see if this fixed your issue. And so if you don't use North American purple, it'll start coagulating everything. You need to do a whole coolant flush and everything to get it out of there to keep from ruining your engine. Okay, so if that's already happened, don't worry. Check this video right here, and I'll show you how to flush the system and get it out of there. But if you're all good there and you don't mess anything up, but you have an oil leak on the passenger side of the engine, check this video out. I'm going to show you how to replace that oil separator. And give me a like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.